Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, there is some spicy information coming out of the rumor mill when it comes to Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons & Dragons, because according to the rumors out there, Kyle Brink, the executive producer for Dungeons & Dragons, has officially been fired from the company. Now, if you don't remember, this is the guy that was out there talking about how like white people need to leave the studio. He was the one about representation and all of that other kind of crazy nonsense out there. The one pushing all of the kind of crazy agenda. He's also the guy that oversaw the absolute debacle with all of the 1D&D stuff that went down last year, and of course all of the crazy backlash that has come from that ever since. This is also part of the guy that was responsible and greenlit the forewords for the 50th anniversary edition of Dungeons & Dragons, which of course had forewords that completely and totally ragged on the original creators and tried to basically disparage all of the other kind of nonsense. It's basically just finding an excuse for everything out there in it. And of course, we did a video not too long ago that, of course, about the actual one of the original creators, one of the few that's still remaining alive with us, absolutely bashing Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons & Dragons. So I have no idea what the reasonings are behind this. We haven't got any official confirmation. I haven't tried to be able to find any news articles of this. But, ladies and gentlemen, the source that we have for this is very reliable. We've seen him time and time again be right, especially about the gaming industry as a whole, and has been a very outspoken advocate from this. So sit, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, our dear sweet Grumz here has reported that Kyle Brink, executive producer for Dungeons & Dragons, has been fired. He also claims if you share this, Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons & Dragons accounts will block you. Now, that right there alone should be enough information to tell you that all of this is true and they're worried about something, because this is the situation. This guy has been a champion for all of the diversity, the inclusion, all of the rest of the nonsense, all of the race swapping of characters, making orcs out to be like Mexicans now. Apparently, orcs are all Mexicans now because the latest edition shows us all in shows all the orcs in like sombreros and traveling through like southwestern Mexico. And then, of course, the fact that they decided to eliminate all of the half races, completely and totally offending all of my family, because apparently a half race or a person being a half-breed of some kind is now offensive and racist. So the mixing of races is racist? What? I don't know, boys and girls. This ideology has been absolutely insane. So we're going to check out this little information. We're going to talk about some of the reasons as to why Kyle Brinks might be gone now. And I'll tell you right now, boys and girls, it's probably not a good thing in any way, shape, or form. It's probably only going to get worse from here. But who knows, boys and girls, you might be able to hold out a hope. We'll have to watch what the future holds to see if this is any good or not. So before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, subscribe and or follow if you have not already, and leave us a comment down below. What do you think this means for the future of Dungeons & Dragons and overall the entire hobby out there if this guy is gone? Is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Or do you think this is going to change anything? Let me know all of that down below. So this is, if you hadn't heard all right, this is the guy out here, right? This is the guy right here. Kyle Brink was the Coast executive producer. There's been mistakes made in years past where people assumed that players were all, white dudes in basements, which has been a faulty assumption for a lot of years and gets more and more false every day. And so in my viewpoint, honestly, guys like me can't leave soon enough for this hobby. Now you might think, is this just a made-up quote? Is this something he actually said? Yes, boys and girls, because Grumz still has the article or has the video clip right here from him literally saying this.
And so it's, in my viewpoint, honestly, guys like me can't leave soon enough for this hobby.
Like, what kind of self-hating immolation for somebody to literally come out and say this publicly in an interview? The faster guys like me, i.e. white guys, get out of the hobby, the better? Wait a minute. I thought all of this was about inclusion, bringing more people into the hobby and making even more money. That was the bill of goods you all sold everybody on this nonsense. This diversity, this inclusion, race swapping of characters, making orcs out to be Mexicans, getting rid of half races. All of that was supposed to bring more people in, right? It was supposed to be more inclusive. So why are you saying here that white people need to leave the hobby? That somehow that it's a bad thing to have white people in the hobby? Excuse me? I thought it was supposed to be all about inclusion. That sounds awful racist to me. Because, boys and girls, how do you always tell if something's racist? Well, just go, if a white national association, right, was out there, would people have a problem with it? If there were scholarships specifically for white people, would people have a problem with it? If this guy was coming out there and saying black people need to leave the hobby, or Mexicans need to leave the hobby, or Asians need to leave the hobby. Well, Asians don't count. I forgot about that nowadays. But literally, if he came out and said any other race needed to leave the hobby, this guy would be drummed out of polite society. He would be canceled faster than our dear sweet Alex Jones. Like, that's how bad this would be. That's how insane this would happen. If he was saying this about any other race, that's how you can tell it's racist. Well, boys and girls, according to Grumz, he's gotten exactly what he deserved. Not only is he no longer in the hobby, apparently, and knowing this guy, if he really said this, maybe he's already stopped playing anyway, but they've gone a step further. They've removed him from making any kind of creative decisions whatsoever. They fired him. He is gone. And why shouldn't he be? Right? One of the lowest times during the D&D franchise, between all of the debacle that happened with one D&D, all of the backlash they've happened from the 50th anniversary edition, all of the backlash they've had from making orcs into Mexicans and talking about half races being racist. Yeah, of course he should be fired. But do I think this is a firing because someone inside of Wizards of the Coast thinks things need to change inside Dungeons and Dragons and maybe they should stop putting this nonsense down? No. Look at everything else that Wizards of the Coast responsible. Magic the Gathering, anyone? The race-swapped Aragorn? Come on. If anything, he's getting exactly what he thought he deserved. His self-hating immolation. Because now he gets to step aside. He gets to step aside and allow all of these voices of color, all of these BIPOC people, all of these LGBTQ plus alphabet soup mafia folks. Well, now they can take his place. And they can show you how D&D should properly done. They can educate you. Because they're smarter, better, and faster than you. They're better than anyone that's ever come before. That's why they had no problem disparaging the creators and the founders of the system and the company and the IP that is the only reason they have a job. They are literally standing on the shoulders of giants and dropping their drawers, eating laxatives and Taco Bell, and just shitting all over them. Because that's their goal. Because they don't have any ways to create their own originality. Because nobody would pay for it. Because it's filled with all this indoctrination nonsense and all of this woke speak. So instead they infest and infect other people's places and other people's hobbies. Now, you can go back to decades with Dungeons & Dragons and some of the root of its problems in the selling to Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast and everything else. But needless to say, at the end of the day, these people have intentionally got themselves inside of certain powers, inside of certain places of power, and fed this line of garbage, this line of inclusion, claiming that if we do this, well, we'll have even more people come in. And all the current players, well, they'll stick around. They don't care. There's a bunch of dumb nerds. There's a bunch of dumb geeks. They're idiots. All we need is dragons and swords and magic, and they'll just show up and eat it up like pigs at the trough. All the slop we feed them, they'll just suck it up, because they do think you're less than them. They aren't the same people that you were playing Dungeons and Dragons with in high school or in middle school or even as an adult and getting picked on by the quote unquote cool kids. No, these were the same people that looked down upon you, but they decided they had an agenda. And because you nerds and you geeks were uneducated and you weren't as smart as them, well, they're going to take over your properties and they're going to educate you. They're going to make you just like them, because they're on the right side of history, boys and girls, and they're going to educate you and they're going to teach you. And if you can't understand, if you can't learn, if you don't comply, they will exclude you. They will tell you you're not wanted. And then you will have an idiot like this, a bitch beta male of a man. Well, let's just say male. A beta bitch male out there, coming out there and going, I'm the problem. I'm the problem. People that look like me are the problem with the hobby. They're the problem. We need to leave. We need to be gone. We need to be purged. Well, guess what, homeboy? Guess what, Kyle Brink? You have been purged. You're gone now. And I'm sure a much more deserving person of color who happens to sleep with the same sex or identifies as non-binary will replace you. So then their voice can be heard, Kyle. Because isn't that what you wanted the whole time? Yeah. That old adage of go woke, go broke doesn't just apply to companies. It also applies to people. And Kyle Brink, former executive producer for Dungeons and Dragons, you've got exactly what you wanted. You've gone woke and now you've gone broke. You don't have a job anymore. You don't know where your next paycheck is coming from anymore because you decided to adopt an ideology that hated everything about you with no good reason whatsoever. Just because you didn't think just like them. So then you decided to comply, Kyle. You decided to go on, spit out their talking points, push their narratives, and do all of the inclusion they asked for. And where did it get you, Kyle? Where did it get you? The unemployment line. A pink slip. And guess what? It's exactly what you deserve! This is what happens when you comply with them. The old saying, you give them an inch and they take a mile, is an absolute fact. Well, Kyle, you gave them way more an inch, and now they've taken your job. How's that work out for you, buddy? Go woke, go broke, Kyle.